Welcome back to the Iced Coffee Hour. This is Techlead, and the Iced Coffee Hour has made some pitiful amount, like $2, $5, whatever it is. I probably lost more than this in the crypto markets, but welcome.
Yeah, to this, it's probably, it's nothing to you as a millionaire, but to us, it is $191,913.01.
Is that supposed to be a lot? But it's like nothing, you guys.
It's nothing. It's a pitiful amount, as you said.
It's supposed to be something. But anyway, we're almost at 2 years now.
Yeah.
So it's almost 2 years
Our
worth of
anniversary's
income
coming
right
up.
there.
Yeah, again, this is something I just make or lose in a day, every day, based on the crypto markets and fluctuations.
How much did you make or lose today in crypto, your entire portfolio?
Millions. Multiples of millions.
Multiples
Yeah.
of millions.
It's just whatever Etherscan tells me. It's just paper gains, paper losses. What I do is I mint a coin and I sell it for like $1. But if I mint 10 million coins, I have a net worth of 10 million, you see.
That's genius, actually.
Yeah.
Well, we got a lot to cover today. So first of all, as a background, I watched your channel when you were at ex-Google, ex-Facebook. So I've seen your progression on YouTube and like through your careers working in tech as a tech lead.
Yeah.
And then
Ex-Google, ex-Meta, ex-husband, ex-convict, ex-sociopath, ex-psychopath, tech lead.
it's hard to keep track of them all.
Well,
But
just shows how far ahead I am of you.
Yeah, I guess I had a lot of catching up.
Most
to
people
do.
underestimate me. You've got
What am I,
quite
the
a ways
ex-
to go.
I don't know if the ex of any-
Ex-convict, yeah.
Definitely not an
You'll
ex-real
get
estate.
there.
Ex-real estate agent,
Yeah.
but you know what? I've almost got my license now in Nevada, so I've taken all the classes online. I just got to take the state exam, and then I will be licensed again in Nevada. So I will no longer be an ex-real estate agent.
I'll use you.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, but I've been managing my own property since then,
Ex-husband,
so.
maybe, come out.
No,
You gotta get there.
Hopefully
Join
not.
the ranks of Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Elon Musk,
Sure.
Oh gosh.
myself. We're the elites.
Oh gosh. Anyway, so I had you back on the channel on the Graham Stephan show. This would have been 3 years ago. Had you on, and then brought you back very shortly after when you made a video about your ex-wife leaving you, and she took your kid to another country.
Yeah, good
and
times.
this was just a crazy story. And I remember you making these videos just discussing the subject, and these videos were just not only very heartfelt, but like were garnering millions of views on some of these topics. And then was it around that time that you were like, tell a bit of your story here, because I think it's a very tumultuous.
Probably in high school, I was already a straight-A student, valedictorian, right? Like very traditional upbringing, you could say, paved the road into becoming essentially a software engineer. I'd always been interested in programming. I got into UC Berkeley, top 3 college in the country maybe for computer science, electrical engineering, computer science. During that time, I did spend a year studying abroad in Japan, right? And that was probably one of the best years in my life. So, travel and minimalism are some things that have really been instilled in me. After that, came back, I spent some time working at Sun Microsystems for an internship. I did an internship at Microsoft, a software engineer. I went to UC San Diego for grad school for about a year, went to Sony Pictures, worked there for a year, $75K income. At the time, it was really good. And I was feeling
old were you then?
I was hot stuff. I was like 23, 24, something like that. During my time there, I built my first app. I taught myself PHP, web development, full stack. The Facebook apps were happening. So I launched that app and it took off, right? So I made probably $1 million right there by the time I was 25. And this is something I recommend to everybody is you don't need to take, I'm against taking risk. I don't believe in taking risk. Your life is far too valuable to risk it on anything. So I would do both at the same time. I did my side hustle in the evenings and weekends, did my full-time job in the daytime. After that, I went off and traveled, actually, doing the digital nomad thing. Been to a bunch of different countries, worked from London, the UK, worked from Hawaii for a while, worked from Japan, went to New York for a while here and there. And I kind of went back and forth and alternated with some full-time jobs actually here and there, right? So like I would go back to Silicon Valley, work in some app companies, 120K income over at Playdom, is some app company. Worked at Groupon, worked at some startups, worked at some of my own ventures again, right? Making more apps and projects. Some of those also blew up. So this is the time I made like 50 apps or so, you know, like more than that. A bunch of different websites, ideas that failed. Some of them succeeded and made maybe another $1 million or so, right? And then probably at around that time, I did go to Japan. I met my wife over there. I was doing my own independent side hustles during that time. And, you know, you can fill up these gaps in your resume by saying like, yeah, I was working on this venture, this project, right? That's how you can fill this up. Came back, landed the job at Google. And that set me on several years working there as a tech lead. Went to, transferred over to Facebook after that, right? Voluntarily. So that was a clean transfer. And then during that time at Facebook, I had also my YouTube channel that I was starting to do. So went to Microsoft too. A lot of people don't know that. But I did get married. I had a kid. My wife from Japan, so I met her in Japan. She one day decided to accuse me of domestic violence. I would say it's alleged. I don't think it's real. But she used that as an excuse to take the child to Japan. This is actually a pretty big issue if you're into various circles. But, you know, Japan is known as a black hole for child abduction. So she took the kid. It was, at the time, it was devastating. Now I've kind of pretty much moved forward with that. You know, the show has to go on, right? Like I can't just... kind of like it's made me realize that you need to focus on making the most of your life no matter what, and that life is short, so you have to enjoy it, right? Like there's certain things you just can't go up against, like it's not worth fighting necessarily. We can talk about this a little bit more, but then yeah, after that I mean during this time I also did work at Google, tech lead there, you know, and then I went over to Facebook, also working as a tech lead over there. Some people at Facebook think I'm not a real tech lead, but I mean, this is why I have to keep telling people I am an ex-Google, ex-Meta tech lead. So Facebook was doing $600,000 in income over there. Actually, one day they decided to fire me for running a YouTube channel. And yeah, ever since then, I've been running this YouTube channel. You can check it out, Tech Lead. But I essentially ran out of content like 2 or 3 years ago. I don't know what people are still there on the channel for. It's probably loaded with crypto trading bots just trying to scam you. But maybe it's the only bots watching my channel right now.
It's 100,000. You know what? I'm always curious how many of our views are due to the bots. Because as soon as I will post, there's always one who will comment on every single post. Now, they could probably do that with one view because it's the same account, but I'm curious. There's got to be like at least a few thousand views.
The bots are the bread and butter of my monetization strategy, right? It's like, I know a lot of people say they don't want bots on YouTube, but I need them for my ad revenue.
You think they watch the ads?
They probably add to the impression counts on the ads and boost the revenue for the creators. Yeah.
So going back, you mentioned that Japan was a black hole for child abduction. Is that because they don't have because it's hard to track people from the U.S. to Japan, or is that because they don't have the infrastructure to or the resources to track people, or
I mean,
why
it's
is
a
that?
whole discussion unrelated to finance, perhaps, but there is the idea that Japan believes in single custody of children, right? And they typically have the situation where the mother watches the child, the husband goes to work all day and barely shows up at home. And if there's a separation, the mother oftentimes will get the child single custody. The father never sees the child again. And that's just the system that they go with. And what happens is, it's just maybe my personal point of view, but there's kind of this princess psychology. Like a lot of Japanese women tend to grow up as little princesses. In my personal view, there's a lot of immaturity involved in this. So when there's conflict, there's not good conflict resolution, and there's no concept of double parenthood there. In my personal view, I kind of made peace with this because if you've ever seen a woman give birth, you'll know that it's massively painful. And, it's like, my view is if somebody wants a child and they get, like, the woman should probably get to say. Like, I kind of see how single custody, if anybody gets to decide, maybe it should be the mother, right? Because, like, if you ask me, would I like to push a watermelon through my body and then say this is half somebody else's? I would say, like, that's not a clean deal. Like, maybe it should just belong to this person. So yeah, as far as enforcement goes, the more you pursue somebody, the deeper into hiding that they go. There are things like the Hague Convention, which are very difficult to enforce. People try to pursue this. It costs, I know people who have spent like $250,000. I've met these people on trying to get their children back. There are entire communities, and this happens everywhere in divorce as well. Like, all of these situations, you can plow hundreds of thousands of dollars into this, and you still may not get the result you're looking for. And the only people that win oftentimes are going to be the attorneys, the lawyers. So, there was even this guy, he made the headlines a while ago. He was starving himself to try to get his child back in Japan. This guy was like a finance manager, Vincent Ficho. And like, these people many of them are very well-to-do, but to me, it's not worth, like, you have to pick your battles in life, right? And to me, it's like this open world game. And there's some bosses on the map that are just, you can spend a lifetime fighting for. Like, you can throw your whole life trying to defeat this boss, and maybe you're going to win, or you can go explore all the other fun parts in life. So even though, yes, I can go throw hundreds of thousands of dollars into this Hague Convention and hire all these attorneys and take this very aggressive attitude, I think it's better to just say, I'm going to go continue to enjoy my life as best as I can, make the most of it in the short time that I have, and take a more gentle approach, which is typically like this is the problem with Western culture, is that we believe in litigation, and we believe in confrontation and aggression and getting our way, fighting for it, and that is victory. But I would say if you can find an approach that is more gentle and reaches compromise, that's going to be more ideal. So my approach these days is really more towards compromise and just understanding that people are like totally insane sometimes and irrational.
Yeah.
And to just treat everybody like rabid dogs. Like, people are not rational. So you just have to try to manage it as best as you can. I can try to fight this person and confront them and reason about them, or I can just say, let me just give you what you want, right? Like, let me just handle this situation as carefully as I can without trying to provoke this other person more.
You've just accepted the situation for what it is and done your thing.
Yeah, I think some things, like, I just don't want to throw resources, time, and effort into fighting, right? Like, it's just if the mother wants the child to grow up without a father, that's her choice. And I think that she does have priority. The law may say there's 50-50 ownership, but if there were no law, by nature, the mother has priority. That's what I would say. Yeah.
And also through the divorce, what were the finances like through the divorce? Because I know, especially for high earners, the results can be pretty controversial.
And when did you become a millionaire? I think it was 25, 24, right? We talked about this on the early episode of the Graham Stephan show.
I've been a millionaire since age 25. So I've lived with wealth quite a while. When were you a millionaire?
26.
All right, see? Yeah, that's how far ahead I am of you. And it compounds, by the way, too. So it's like, it's just the distance.
Keeps going, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to ask your net worth, which may be higher than...
Do it.
You can ask it. No, I'm so upfront about it. I made a video about it. It's 15 and a half. You didn't ask, but that's what it is.
What's yours?
Check Etherscan. I mean, I was worth like $20 million on Etherscan. Yeah, check that out. Paper gains right there. And I can probably mint another 200 million if I want to, right? It's like simple, just make a coin like that. What were we talking about?
Your the wealth that you built up in your 20s. How you did that, and then what happened in a divorce?
This is how you get messed up in family court, right? Like whatever amount that you offer, you can say, I'm going to offer you $5,000 child support, $1 million in total finances. The other person does not know what is fair, right? So because they have no understanding of what is fair by the legal system, they're going to say, give me more. It's always going to be more until the other person gets to a point where they, maybe really until an attorney comes and the judge says, this is fair. Mm-hmm. But that makes mediation incredibly difficult, in my opinion. And what happens if you're a high earner is that if you go talk to an attorney, they'll just charge you through the roof on everything. So like I try to do everything myself because I don't want any funds to go to the attorneys, if at all possible. But if the other person there come situations where like the other person can try to get you to pay their attorney fees. So you're paying double attorney fees, and attorneys can cost $800 an hour if it's a good one. So you could be paying $1,600 per hour in the worst case, possibly, maybe. But what happens is like I probably spent $25,000-$30,000 on an attorney, and they didn't even get me through a single trial, right? It was only paperwork up to that point. So I fired the attorney and just said, I'm going to just represent myself in trial, go in, and I just lost. And, like I went in there and I said, this is a kidnapping. This person's taking the child. This isn't fair. And they're just like, cool. So let's have you pay. And I think that's just a norm for family court.
Even though she's in another country and you have zero custody?
Even if she's in another country, kidnaps nobody, it doesn't matter. That's just the way family court is.
Is this the California family court? Because you're residing
I think it's all Western courts. Yeah, I think because number one, child support has nothing to do with custody. So it's simply based on like, we don't care what happened. We don't know, like, even if this was a kidnapping, whatever, like, you pay. It's just as simple as that. The divorce is still going on, quite frankly. So this is going to be another headache.
How did you build your wealth to begin with?
So I think this is something valuable for people to understand, but my wealth was built over probably 5, 6, 7 different projects over my career, right? It's not a single thing. And these took many years. So it's really the personality that you have and that determination and persistence to keep doing success after success after success. In my personal opinion, that's going to get you to a successful position, right? So like probably my first million was made from making a bunch of apps on my own, right? Like Facebook apps, Facebook gaming, right? When that took off. But that only got me to 1 million or so, less than that. I probably had to create 3 different social gaming apps, taking advantage of the whole app trend on Facebook, Twitter apps and all that to get to that stage. But that's not enough to retire on. That's why I went back to work later on. And, like there was the whole Google, Facebook career episode I had that made me some more money here and there. I had episodes where I had to learn stock trading, right? Because after a while, your investments take over. If you make money, but you don't learn investments, you're going to be limited, right? Like there could be massive gains there that you don't pick up on. After that, then maybe there's the whole YouTube section, right? Segment, which helps make more money. But if all I did was YouTube, I would not have monetized as much as maybe if I were able to create additional content and courses and continue to pivot the channel to stay relevant, to just keep the clickbait farm coming along, right? So, you see a lot of other people, they're making their YouTube channel. Maybe they make one channel, that's all they do. It fades out, they go back to work, right? And so I would say the thing about me is I kept reinventing myself and kept finding new opportunities. So it's not like, this is why when people say, oh, you're just lucky. Well, I got lucky like 7 times, 10 times in a row, right? Like the these are ventures, multiple ventures, not just one. And many people have trouble even doing a single venture, right? And in their entire life, they don't ever get off the rails.
I'm a little confused on the storyline here. So this is, I'm assuming, just after college, or was this while you were in college when you started developing apps?
Yeah, so the apps business was done right after I finished grad school.
Mm-hmm. But before you started working at Microsoft.
Yeah, so it was in 2007. Facebook was booming. People were making lots of money on the Facebook apps. Everything was going viral, right? So I actually had to teach myself a PHP, JavaScript. It was hellish, like full stack web development, server management. This is not something that any college is going to teach you, right? Like nobody teaches you this stuff. You just have to go learn by yourself. So that's what I did.
Why that? Did you just spot an opportunity? How do you come up with the idea?
So I think I'm personally attracted to whatever is just interesting or cool or trendy at the time, right? Like this was just a very interesting, trendy technology. Like the whole Facebook apps thing, you can make massive impact. And maybe it's impact for me that I've been attracted to. Right? It's like anything that looks like, it can just make impact upon the world, right? The Facebook apps was the ability to reach massive amounts of people. You could kind of say the same with the whole YouTube thing. When I saw YouTube, probably when you saw it too, many people were not taking it seriously, right?
Yep.
It was like if you were doing YouTube, people would laugh at you, right? People would say, "Oh, professionals don't do that." Nowadays, you see venture capitalists and entrepreneurs and like loads of professional people on YouTube trying to build their audience, but they're way too late. So, there's the followers and the leaders, Techlead like me. But, it's like if you're attracted to impact, then I think you may have what it takes. There's many people who come to me and say they are attracted to code. They love coding. That's not right. Right? Code is a tool to achieve impact. It's a tool to achieve massive scalability at low cost to reach like massive amounts of people and deliver value. But code is not the draw. It's never been the draw. It is the product, that impact that I've always been seeking. So I just learn whatever technology is necessary. Like when I was working at Google and Facebook, it was through iOS development. iOS is completely different tech stack than full stack web development. A completely different technology. So I switched right away to just whichever technology is going to be necessary. YouTube, in my mind, YouTube is also another different tech stack, right? Like it's a whole set of skills that you need. And so when people come and say they just want to learn to code, it's like, if all you do is learn how to code, what you're really looking at is a $30K job, low income in an outsourced facility center, where you're at the computer 12 hours a day for 10 years straight. That's coding. I don't think anybody really wants to do that, but you see so many people say, oh, my dream is to become a software engineer. There's plenty of software engineers like the Linux programmers who just sit in their basements and never achieve anything with their lives and make zero impact upon the world. Those are the people I've never envied. Who we envy are myself, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and myself, and the people who make the impact, right? Yeah. These people were not just programmers. They were entrepreneurs.
But first, I want to thank our sponsor, Grammarly.
So guys, it's already April, but I feel like the year's just started. I've been spending way too much time writing and perfecting emails.
Well, Jack, if you want to save time writing emails, just install Grammarly.
Grammarly is an all-in-one writing tool that helps you communicate clearly and effectively, even when you're short on time.
Grammarly is like having a professional writer look through your work 24/7.
And their free version is also amazing since it protects you from things like basic spelling, grammar, phrasing, and punctuation. But the real magic happens when you upgrade to Grammarly Premium.
Grammarly Premium offers clarity suggestions and even full sentence rewrites to help you clearly convey your message and avoid miscommunication.
Are you trying to impress girls with your stupendous writing ability?
We know you are.
Well, Grammarly's built-in tone detector can help you sound as confident, professional, or as formal as you need. And they also provide vocab suggestions, which help you replace overused words, phrases, and also words.
You really need Grammarly Premium, man. So get through those emails and your work quicker by keeping it concise, confident, and effective with Grammarly.
So visit Grammarly.com/icedcoffee today and sign up for a free account. And when you're ready to upgrade to Grammarly Premium, you can get 20% off just for being a listener.
Again, guys, that's 20% off at Grammarly, GRAMMARLY.com/icedcoffee.
Thanks so much, Grammarly, and
Back to the podcast.
How much were you making on the app at its peak? Because you were 24, 25 years old.
Yeah, I mean, the first app I built is a social gaming app. Probably was about $1 million per year type of thing total.
Oh, yeah.
There were some apps that were doing $20,000 per day, actually. So but these apps can be short-lived things. Other apps would do $5,000 per day. But the thing that people don't understand is even though I had, say, 3-4 highly successful apps, there were 50 apps I built, probably, that were not successful, that nobody heard about, right? So, one lesson I did learn, I remember, was in my younger years, entrepreneur told me, you need to fail 3 times before you find your first success. What do you think about that?
I don't know if I've really failed at
Graham just wins and wins and
no,
wins.
I'm thinking of it. Like I didn't have many failures in the sense.
What about the vlog, huh?
Well, yeah,
I wouldn't call that necessarily a failure, but it's like you have to have 3 failures to have 1 success, unless you count a failure like going to see open houses.
So was,
or like,
for you, was the very first YouTube channel you started, it was just
instant,
success,
yeah.
right?
Everything I've done, it's usually done well, but I've never gone into anything I've done for the money. It's always been I do something because I really enjoy it, and it happens to make money. Like what started off as taking pictures for reef aquariums for fun turned into a job that then turned into this whole passion throughout high school where I just make money. Same with real estate. It's like I did a quick job before that I thought I wanted to go in investment banking. So I got a job at a precious metals investment firm. I hated the job, but it was really good experience. But even as an agent, it's like I just wanted to wanted to work for free, honestly. And it turned into a great career. And then YouTube was something like I would do that for free. It turned into a great career.
Well, I would say even for YouTube, you have videos that perform poorly, right? That get 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
And some that maybe after you do a series of poor videos, you get a 1 out of 10, right? So you can even consider some of these videos to have been somewhat failures.
I don't know. I think it depends how you frame it, because some people are like, "Oh, I failed at this. This sucks. I'm worthless." But I've always viewed every failure as like, "Why did I fail? Why did it?" So I guess I frame any failure as like, "Oh, I learned something good." So it's never been a failure for me, because if there is something that doesn't work, I'm like, "Oh, what can I do? How can I do that differently? Oh, I learned a really good lesson from this. Here's how I'm gonna make it better in that." And so it's almost like a step up.
I think that's a good point. Yeah, because even for me, maybe I made 50 apps. Even I don't consider those to be failures, right? It's like maybe I made an app and I learned something, or I got a few $100 from it. And so a lot of people say, "Oh, being an entrepreneur is so risky because you may fail." I don't think these people fail, right? Like they probably make a few $1,000 from their venture. They learn something and they move on and they satisfy their curiosity. So even for them, they may not picture it as a pure failure.
Yeah, I think it just depends on how you frame it. And there's what is it called? I read a book on this, or it was like an audio book about like a self-fulfilling prophecy that when you get when you start doing well at something, it spirals into another thing, because you have that self-fulfilling belief that if you do something, you're going to do well at it. And because of that, you shift your mindset to do well at that because you believe in it.
Yeah.
Versus other people get caught in the mindset of like, "Oh, I suck at this. Let me give it a shot. And it's probably not going to do well, but let me try." And it doesn't do well. It's like, "Oh man, I suck at this. I can't do this." And that continues, that influences the next choices.
Yeah. So this is a theory I have that plays into this, which is, you know how love cannot be negotiated, right? Desire cannot be negotiated. You cannot rationalize somebody to love you, right? It's like you can't sit down and have a conversation and say like, here are the top 10 reasons why you should love me. It's just, if the person wants it, they will rationalize to themselves all your good traits. And if they don't want it, they will convince themselves that you're a terrible person, right? So in a sense, it's like we are where we are because we chose that place that we wanted to be and then self-rationalize ourselves into that. And it's kind of like how people also say, I don't have time for this. No, you didn't. You have time, right? You didn't want to make time. It wasn't a priority in your life. And so therefore, you decided not to create the time for it. And you made these excuses. So I tend to believe like all of us are exactly where we want to be.
No, I think all of us are where we think we're at where we deserve, or we're at what we believe to be our own limit. That's what I kind of think. Because I don't think anybody could look at, not anybody could look at their life, but I think a lot of people would look at their life and say, I'm not necessarily happy, but I didn't want to be here. I want to be over there. But I think deep down, maybe it's they are where they are because they feel like that's what they deserve, or like that's what I'm worth is this.
It's like many people are addicted to their own struggle, their own self-misery, right? Like somebody may say, I want to be a book author. And that's the state of mind that they stay in, and they never write a book, right? And I think we kind of push ourselves into these limiting areas. And there's this other book I read called The Courage to be Disliked. It's a pretty interesting one, but it's based on the idea of, so like Young psychology basically says that we are a product of our past, right? So they say if you had trauma when you were a kid, then, for example, you can never have a happy family life because you had this trauma as a kid. And so therefore your future is predetermined. But there's also this idea that trauma doesn't exist. Okay. So it's like, if you're here and you just will yourself to be happy, you can be a happy person, right? You're a point in time. You're not necessarily the result of prior action. So anyone can just say, I'm happy. And what? Like I'm happy, right? And you can let go of that prior identity that you may have had. So based on that idea, it's like you can choose where you want to be. Kind of like say to yourself, if you want to be a happy, like if you just want to say, I'm a happy person, the things in my life I'm going to view with a certain perspective as being that of success, then say, right, like maybe these were good things, right? Like some people say to themselves, I had a bad day. Maybe you had a wonderful day, right? You're not in jail, all right? Like you're not dead. You're doing fantastic. And then other people may just characterize that as something bad.
Yeah. It's weird. I always view things as it could be worse. And I try my best. Even if I have a bad day, I'm like, well, at least this didn't happen. Well, that could have happened. It didn't.
Yeah.
Or I try to think, how could this be better? Am I going to, what?
How was today for you?
Terrible. Today was
Could it have been worse?
It could. Yes. Today was the worst day I've had in probably a year. Maybe
I'm sorry
longer.
about that.
Yeah. Or maybe 2 years. This has probably been the most, this was the worst day. Yeah, basically my aquarium sprung a leak, and that's like every aquarium owner's worst nightmare is the seam of the tank just all of a sudden bust. So I woke up this morning with 40 gallons of water.
You see, Graham, this is why minimalism is what you need. You're a slave to your possessions, right? You're a slave to your aquarium.
Oh, but I love the aquarium. The aquarium is the one thing that brings me so much happiness. Yeah, it brings me so much happiness.
Grasp on you. You're an emotional slave to your things.
Right, but I think Graham actually likes being that. Like you mentioned, people are generally wherever they are, they're at their happiest because they made their own choices to put themselves there, right? And Graham may be a slave to some material things, such as his aquarium, such as his Zenith El Primero.
Oh, but I'm not a slave to that.
But
the aquarium, yes.
But I think that's kind of what fuels him. He's a very interesting person insofar as like he's very fueled by like stress and like negative emotion.
Oh gosh, I don't have negative emotion, Jack.
This is like
Jack, don't have negative emotion.
Have you done like a personality trait? Like there's a trait in the ocean
Yeah.
analysis for a neuroticism. So that's the tendency to over worry or to over stress.
I don't know. I'm happy to take it and see what would come up for me.
What's your MBTI? Do you know that?
What is that?
Myers-Briggs.
Oh, I don't know, INTJ or something like that. I'm not really sure.
Cool. All right.
But yeah, but the aquarium is something I was unhappy with at the aquarium because I really wanted an aquarium, and that was years of just like looking forward to getting the aquarium, and I get the aquarium and it leaks. But I'll get a new one.
But you still got an aquarium.
I still got an aquarium, and I'll get a new one in 3 weeks that I could set up. So now I'm thinking like, okay, what's the bright side? Well, the tank didn't explode. Wasn't
The stuff
that
is still
bad.
safe.
Everything is still safe, and I get a new tank. What's the downside? Well, it's a day. It's basically 2 days of my time. That's the downside. Is it 2 days? One day is going to be very memorable of cleaning up all the water. The next day is going to be transferring it to a new tank and I'll put sand in this tank this time. Didn't put sand before. I'll make it better. So I try to view everything like that. If something bad happens, it's like, how could it be worse?
Gratitude?
I did.
You gotta get on the
2
influencer
years
path,
ago,
Graham. Like we influencers have to like have mindfulness, practice gratitude, drink black coffee. Do you do intermittent fasting?
No.
You gotta get on that, man. I mean, otherwise you're not legit as an influencer.
Yeah, I got to take cold showers too. Wake up at 4 a.m. to meditate.
Yeah, you got to do that. Yeah.
I did practice gratitude.
Minimalism. I mean, where is that?
I couldn't do minimalism.
Really?
No.
Why?
I think there's some of that I would enjoy temporarily, but like
You
deep
like stuff
down,
a lot?
I'm a collector. I love
Yeah.
collecting things, and I like to have a collection.
Consumerism, materialism. You're just consumed by your own physical desires.
I love having a collection and that fun and the challenge of putting together something that it's like the searching of putting together a puzzle. Like for me, it would be a car collection, and like what cars can I buy? Well, the Ford GT, it would be a Tesla Roadster,
You know what
an
they say is
SLS
like,
AMG.
if you cannot be happy with a cup of coffee, you can never be happy, because your desire will be limitless, right? Like if you temper your desires, you can be happy with anything. Otherwise, you're always going to be on that hedonistic treadmill.
But see, I'm happy looking forward to stuff. Like I'm looking forward. I want a Tesla Roadster. I'm looking for. Yeah, sure, there will always be something else. But like to me, that's part of the collection.
But if everything got stripped away from you, would you be able to be happy?
Yes, but I would be happy with the expectation that I'd be able to build that back.
So you're not going to be happy unless you have this Tesla Roadster that's holding you back. I mean, you've already got plenty of cars, right?
But it's a part of the collection. It's like, but for me, it's the fun of picking a car that I think is a good investment.
But what if you can't buy the car because you got stripped of everything? Then it's just the hopes of being able to buy a car.
Yeah, I've always had the hope and the belief that like, well, if I'm not going to do it now, I'll be able to do it in the future. Always had that. Yeah.
This is the thing I've realized is investment is the most boring thing in the world. Like I used to be into it just like you, but I've like transcended.
Yeah, you've transcended beyond that.
Yeah. But like, let's pretend that Bitcoin is the ultimate investment. Let's pretend that it's just going to outperform any other thing.
Sure.
So then would you just say, would you just say, okay, let's just like get rid of everything, put it all into Bitcoin. If you make more money, put it more into Bitcoin. And it's like just anything you get, you're just going to plow into crypto, some type of cryptocurrency.
No, because now I've valued more so my time. So I'm doing things now that would save me time or for convenience. So like I do see more of a value in that. But as far as the car, I mean, the car is something you could enjoy. So the car is part of something that like you could go and stare at it. It's like a piece of art.
Can't you just rent
a
car? Like here's the experience that changed me is, have you ever driven like a Lamborghini?
Yeah.
Huracan.
Mm-hmm.
Like I went to this race course. You can do one in Las Vegas. Drove a Lamborghini Huracan next to like a Aston Martin, and you know there were GTRs and like Ferraris, and everybody just said, yeah, the Lamborghini and Ferrari are in a totally different class, and just like the other cars just look like pure trash compared to like the Lambos.
Mm-hmm.
And after driving that, for me, I just thought, I have absolutely no desire to own like a GTR, which I used to want to own, because it's just total trash. And you know, other cars, you're playing the status game. Like people say Audi is the car for basically like poor, wealthy people, right? People who are trying to show status who are actually poor people, right? Like if you want to actually show status, get a classless car. So for me, like which cars have no class? Mini Coopers, Teslas.
Gosh.
Mini Cooper
Right.
and Audis.
Yeah, I mean, like
It said Tesla too.
Yeah,
so.
they're saying all of Macy and Graham's cars.
Maybe like
Macy has
Prius
an
or
Audi and
something.
she used to
And
have a Mini
Volvos and
Cooper.
Prius.
Yeah,
And Prius too.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
yeah.
up there. I mean, you guys don't have to compare yourself
You
to
have
me.
transcended everything
Yeah.
and everyone and everything.
Life experiences, you know, like let's talk about life experiences. Which, like, have you been out of the country?
Yes, but never out of the continent.
So you've been to like Canada, right? It's
Canada,
like, okay.
Canada, and Mexico is where I've
See,
traveled.
when I was your age, I had already been
How
to
old are you?
like late 30s, but I say to myself early 40s, just to give myself
He's
less
transcended
time.
beyond his actual
His
age.
actual age, yeah.
How can I gaslight you here, Jack? Like, what is age, anyways?
Yeah.
It's a.
Techlead doesn't have an age. Techlead just is.
I use like the lunar calendar.
Yeah, he lives in the moment. He
Yeah.
is how old he thinks he is. Age is just a mindset,
but when,
Jack.
like when I was your age,
Yeah.
I studied abroad in Japan. You know, I had already been to like Angkor Wat, Cambodia, Vietnam, Halong Bay, Thailand multiple times, sailing in the Caribbean. Like, it's beautiful. You rent a catamaran for like a week. You go sell it in the Bahamas, in the British Virgin Islands. I went sailing in Thailand. You know, I had already lived in. Have you been to Hawaii? Yeah,
Yes.
you went to Hawaii.
Yeah.
I had already lived in London, you know, the UK. I spent time traveling through all of, going from like the Swiss Alps down through the French coast, right, into the southern Spain area. I've been to Iceland, right, like done all of these things. And you're like here reading news, right? Like you're reading a bunch of news and making video about news in order to buy more Bitcoin, like paper wealth, to invest that into more paper wealth. For me, I realized I was like, I just think this is time that you're not going to necessarily get back. What are your assets? Health, wealth, time, and youth. Youth is important, right? Because if you go traveling when you're 40 or 50, or if you're driving in a Porsche when you're 40 or 50, nobody cares about that. And your experience will be totally different than if you do it, you know, now. And arguably, since I made my wealth early, I recognized everybody gets wealthy. Everybody becomes a millionaire by the time they're 60, 70, right? Like, it's very simple. You work 30 years for 30K. That gets you, what, $1 million? So the advantage that you have is your time. People want that money now in order to experience it and use it. And I don't think it would, like, this is something you're going to realize when it's too late, maybe. But you're going to say, lose the next 5-10 years of your life. And then you're going to say, okay, I made another $1 million. What happened? You made 5 million, but then you lost 4 million in the market crash. So, or you may have made some money, you lost a bunch in the market crash, and then you got divorced or whatever, right? Like somebody sues you, and then you break your leg. And what happened, right? That was it. Maybe you get cancer. So people often say, like, you have to enjoy your journey. The destination is going to be trash. Like, in many ways, life is a car crash in slow motion. The ending, we all die. Right? We all just die. So in my opinion, like, you create the lifestyle that you want, and you need to live that. And the lifestyle needs to use money, right? Because many people, I think they go through life, they make money, and they want to live the FIRE dream, right? Financial independence dream, where they're essentially just burning very little amounts of their money, and they're just living at home, watching TV, and they take 2 vacation trips a year. This is something that you're born with, right? Like when you were a kid, your parents already gave you that life, right? Like, just go live with your parents if that's what you want. You can go, you can play your video games, you don't have to work, and your parents can take you on like a vacation twice a year or something like that, right? Like, it's extremely boring, I would say, this financial independence route. Fat Fire is one where you're able to live a little bit more. But these people still end up with multiple millions, right, in their bank account when they die, and they never truly find the use for that money. You know, and it's kind of saddening and extremely boring, especially now that we have cryptocurrency, where you just say, if you get money, just put it into this digital dashboard, right? That's what we're all doing. Make money, put it into a digital dashboard, number go up. That's it. Keep doing that, and then 10 years pass, 20 years pass. So in my opinion, saving money and investing money is like living on autopilot. It is the most boring and lazy path. And if you're able to actually figure out how do you deploy cash, right? Spending money is difficult. It's extremely difficult to spend money and deploy it into a way that achieves enjoyment for you. You can go buy a Rolex. I don't know if that gives you much joy, especially, right, like you buy it, you put it in a cabinet, in a drawer somewhere, and you say, okay, this is a nice investment. And you don't really look at it so much. I guess you two own Rolexes.
See, here's the thing, though. For me, it's like, I think a lot of people enjoy what they do, and they would be doing it regardless. So for me, it's like, I don't know right now. I would enjoy vacations like that. Like, to me, that just sounds, I'd rather just, like, what sounds great to me is a free schedule over the next week, get to work.
If you could pause time right now, though, and there was no expectation of you posting, the algorithm would stop.
Yeah.
How would you spend that time?
Gosh, I don't know. I probably want to get ahead. I mean, but yeah,
like
that would make me feel good.
I have family friends who say like, they're doing extremely well. I mean, we all have friends like this. They're doing extremely well and they're still working in their 60s or 70s, and they say, "Oh, I love my job. I would never quit because I wouldn't know what I would do with my time." It's extremely lazy, isn't it? Right? Like, these people are on autopilot. They follow the path laid out to them by society to do their 9 to 5 and to not think further than that, when there's a whole world waiting for them. And you have to actually, it takes extremely amount, like a lot of time and effort to figure out what you want to do. Like, what I think about is an itinerary. Like, when you take a vacation trip, you need to spend maybe 2 weeks planning the itinerary. You need to actually sit down and put in time and effort and research this. Like, what are you going to do? If you don't have an itinerary and you never put in the time and effort to think about what you want to do, then you just say, well, I wouldn't know what I would do. This is too hard. I guess I'm just going to keep working because I can make $5 an hour if I do this. You're going to reach a point in your life, you may have already reached it, where your investments, the returns on your investments will outpace any active income that you as an individual is able to generate, right? Like, and at that point, why do you work? You can increase your, like, let's say,
fun. I enjoy it. Like, I don't know. I love doing, like, this is kind of work, but like, I would be doing this regardless. And I've even thought, like, what would I do if I took, a full week off? Work. Like, I would be loading a podcast. I would do more podcast guests. I'd do more reactions on the second channel. I would just keep doing what I'm doing. Yeah.
Probably for you, this is absolutely the position you should be in.
Yeah.
Let's say you're 10 years older.
Oh, I know it's going to change.
Let's say you're 10 years older now. Is your answer still the same?
Probably not. But
right?
I would have the options to do at that time, or it could be in a month. I mean, realistically, it'll probably be 2 to 5 years. That's what, kind of, and at that point I could reevaluate the schedule and kind of maybe figure out something different. But I see probably 2 to 5 years. Like, I love this. And maybe if it's longer, it's longer. If it's less, I've always just done like what I felt in my gut. It's just like, this is what I want to do. I'm just going to do that. And that's the right choice. It's always been the right choice.
I have a question for you, Graham.
Yeah.
If you knew you were going to be gone 1 week from now, what would you do?
If I were going to be gone?
Like, yeah, I don't want to say it because of the YouTube algorithm.
I would be unalived.
Yes, unalived in 1 week. What would you do?
Oh, gosh. I would probably go scuba diving in Fiji with Macy, with everybody. I would take everybody I could. And
Me too?
Yeah, and you too. I would probably take 30 people to Fiji to go scuba diving, and then I'd find a way to divide up my money so that it goes to the right people and
you're
places.
such a great guy,
Jack,
Graham.
who is that? I'm not going to...
Yeah, why are you
Jack.
assuming?
Hey,
Jack?
what? I didn't say
What are you
anything.
doing?
You're a good guy.
It goes to Ramsey and Bailey.
Oh, okay.
The Ramsey and Bailey Foundation. They're gonna have this huge house in Bel Air.
Yeah.
It's
So,
gonna be so nice.
Let's say let's say you make a video, you get no views,
Mm-hmm.
and you get no money. Do you still make videos?
Certainly not.
What? But there's
Because there's two things
Yeah.
that feed you.
Yes.
Number one is your own ego, right? By getting the views,
Mm-hmm.
you feel self-important, right? Like, hey guys, everybody's watching me. The second thing is maybe money. The money is going to get to a point where, and you may already be at this, where it's money that like for me, I'm gonna die with money in the bank account. Right? There's gonna be money in the bank account when I die, even if I try to spend it. Many people are going to get to that point. You're probably at that point. So the money is just kind of like, you can make it. You're never gonna touch it in your entire life, and quite frankly, your investments may outpace your active income by 10 to 1. I mean, you may get to a point. Your own narcissism or ego is something that you don't necessarily like. If you escape out of it and get out of the status game, anyways, like
yeah, but I think it's less about myself and more about like what you provide to somebody else. And for me, it's the fulfillment and purpose that I get when I see someone come up and say, hey, it's because of you that I bought a house. It's because of you that I got my first credit card and I did this. And now I'm financially secure. And like, that's the sort of stuff for me that really pushes me. And it helps that money is a byproduct of that. And like, obviously that's a component of it. I enjoy that. And that just, as it gives me more content to make.
Yeah,
but even something like this, it's like, I would say there's a very small portion of like ego. And I would say the bigger portion is that whoever's watching this is able to get a different perspective that they wouldn't have without us being in this room together and spending our times like talking about stuff like this.
So I think that's great. For me, since I'm basically like, I was where you were like 10 years ago or something. It's like, I had my phase where I dedicated a year or more of my life to reading news every single day and day trading. I got nothing out of like the news I read. I'm not sure if I attained any skill out of, right? No long-term lasting learnings, no personal growth. I realized that all the news I was reading every day I couldn't care less about, right? It's like Jerome Powell raised the interest rates by 25%. Joe Biden's doing something. They're printing this much. Some company released some annual earnings report. 2 weeks later, is that news important? No, it's complete garbage, right? It's like it's unactionable, priced into the market. So you do this long enough, you do this another 5-10 years, you may get to a point where you're just like, buy and hold, you guys, right? If I want to help you, I tell you, buy and hold, deploy all your cash into Amazon, Apple, Google, S&P 500, and just hold it, right? And get like Bitcoin or whatever, right? Get some crypto, and that's it. Just buy and hold, don't sell. That's all you gotta do, right? Maybe that's it. And then all the other news that you're reading is just causing you to whir around, to spin, and you're just like, do I buy? Do I sell? No, just you already deployed your capital, so just hold on to it.
Yeah, but some of that, I think I enjoy it. I love the process of reading through the news every day. I love seeing what's new, and for me, it's like. It's a component of that, but both entertainment, because like I watch like every finance video that's out there, and I would say half of them I watch just for the information, and that's it. I wanted just the details, but the other half is just entertainment. Like I'll just sit there and I'll like eat dinner or I'll eat lunch and I'll watch a video, and like that's what I just. But I also acknowledge that I'm kind of weird when it comes to that sense, that I find like these very specific topics extremely interesting, and I fixate on them. And so for me, it's like the Reef Aquarium and business and making money. It's just like those are the two segments that I just love.
I mean, I would say I still do pay attention. I still read it as well, but it's just like when you step back, it's maybe the most interesting thing of all the boring news out there. So it's still something to pay attention to. Yeah, it's interesting.
But let's say for someone like that, you know, you're not chasing anything. Why do this? Why create Million Token?
Yeah, Million Token. Check it out, milliontoken.org. We got them, you guys. We're on the Graham, Steph, and Ice Coffee Hour. Check it out.
With Jack.
With Jack. Yeah, Million Token.
Yeah.
You know, 1 million limited supply. So I had spent probably the last 9 months of my YouTube channel really promoting this, right? This token was released in July of last year. Initially, it was, I mean, I mentioned this before as well. It's a joke, right? It's like, it was supposed to be this fun social crypto activity because I'm a programmer. I know how to create some of these smart contracts, that it would be this community activity. We could just all get together, and it was going to be something that just lasted one video, really, right? Like,
is that really your expectation though? Because really?
Yeah, it was going to be this fun activity, show you guys how I created the token, how you can create your own tokens, and just put it out there, right? And it was supposed to be this, like, I make apps all the time, right? So to create a token, like, I make programming projects on my channel occasionally as well. So to me, it was just like, hey, this is kind of neat. I didn't give it much more thought than that and deployed it. It turns out over time that the token has pretty good fundamentals, actually, right? It's like one token backed by one USD coin. The rest is up to market fluctuations. And it actually had some legs to continue running. And the more I looked at it and other people started getting into it as well, it's just like, this is actually pretty neat, right? Like the fundamentals are actually pretty good. I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn here, but the fundamentals are super clean because it's like, it's never been hacked. It's bridged across almost every blockchain. You know, you got Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, Avalanche, Phantom, Harmony One, maybe some more. The zero inflation rate, transaction times are super fast. You can use any blockchain that suits you, right? So it's like, if you compare it, and it's smart contract compatible, it supports NFTs, it supports like all of the capabilities of that. So when you compare to, so here's the thing, right? Like Bitcoin and Dogecoin are first gen coins. They don't support smart contracts, right? They don't have NFT support. They don't have staking.
Right? Aren't they working for
Bitcoin? They're still trying to deploy that, right? Like Jack Dorsey of Twitter is trying to come up with like smart contract support for Bitcoin. Still, right? Like they're trying to work on some of this stuff. Then you've got the second gen coins, which I would say is like maybe Shiba Inu or something like that, some token that is purely on Ethereum. Ethereum gas fees are crazy expensive. And plus, some of these coins have pretty terrible fundamentals. Like they may have inflation. You don't know who the founder of Shiba Coin is. Right? It's like, you don't know how many coins, like there could be some shady stuff going on in there. So when you take a look at Million, at least, it's interesting because it's on so many chains, you can get super low gas fees, and like the founder is doxxed, and it's just kind of a neat thing.
Why create it? Just for fun? Was it out of boredom? Was it just why put your time into that when you could be traveling or doing something else? So again, I believe in like the journey, right? It's like whatever's neat, whatever's interesting. Maybe it's in like an art project or something, right? So I make apps out there all the time of whatever I think is just kind of interesting. So it's really like, it's game theory. It's a social experiment, right? It's like, if I put out a token backed by one USD coin, one interesting thing about this is it will never disappear. Right? The project will never lose value. It won't just vanish because there's always value attached to it. So, and then any price above that is simply market dynamics, right? So it's like, what would happen to this? It's also pretty cool because like it's a NFT, it's a hybrid NFT, right? It's like, it's a fun badge for anybody, at least on my channel, like as a millionaire. If you also want to
be a millionaire, you can own like 1 million tokens. So like there's some pretty fun things with that. It didn't take too long to deploy, and I always wanted to.
Way to go, Bailey, for lightening the mood here.
Yeah, I always wanted to just try out the smart contract. So yeah, that's.
What happened with CoffeeZilla? We saw some big. This was the biggest drama of YouTube back then when this came out. CoffeeZilla made a video.
Yeah. So unfortunately, here's the thing. When CoffeeZilla initially messaged me, he was intent to just like he built his reputation on destroying as many. He just wants to call everything a scam. That's how he gets his views. If he came and said, this project is pretty neat, actually. There's some things I like about it. Hey, crypto's kind of cool, you guys. He's going to alienate his audience, right? He builds his life on criticizing other people. Like, what value do you add? But when he came to me, he said, I want to destroy your token value, basically. Like, I want to just come and make this video that you're a scam. And I'm just like, there's a lot of people who are holding onto this, and like, I don't think you should just go in and like trash these people's values, right? You're not hurting me, you're hurting these people. I'm trying to protect my community. But he just wanted to make any claim that he can. So he comes up and makes up this claim that really has no basis. But what he's saying is he particularly latched onto this thing about liquidity. Mm-hmm. Okay, so where he says, I put $1 million of my own money into Million token. And he says, well, did you really? When actually the way I deployed it was I put $50,000 liquidity with 50,000 of the tokens, right? This is just a way that Uniswap works. But here's my original thinking, right? I was going to say, I have 1 million of these tokens supply. I'm going to I actually, like, through Coinbase, I can't just bring in $1 million right away. They have all these restrictions and account limitations. So I'm able to bring in 50,000 and match that with 50,000 tokens and deploy that. But originally I was going to say, why don't I deploy these tokens over time? I'll release 50,000 tokens and back each one with $50,000, right? So the backing's there. When those are sold out, I'll release another 50,000 and set a buy floor for another 50,000, right? So I will set these buy floors and just put in the buy order for 50,000 at a time.
Now, if you have 50,000, and I'm not that familiar with it, if you just released 50,000, wouldn't that mean less liquidity, meaning there's more volatility in the price to go up because there's fewer being released?
So at this point, I did not even understand liquidity, right? Like, all I knew was I can create a token. I want to figure out how to get it deployed. I even imagined in my head that I can set buy floors, right? So I can deploy 50,000, set 50,000 buy floor, deploy another 50K, put another 50.
Now,
so
what do you mean? So what's a buy floor? Is that
it's a market order, right? A market limit order to buy, like 50,000 tokens at 1 USDC.
Okay.
Right. It turns out that in the decentralized exchanges, you cannot set, this is getting into the weeds, right? Like, you cannot set market orders for buy and sell. There is no buy and sell order, actually. What you're doing is you're doing a swap, and you're interacting with liquidity pools. So because of the way this works, essentially, like, you need to deploy the liquidity. You basically need to match up the number of tokens with the liquidity that you put in, and you just put that out anyway. So,
but there's no way that you could set a minimum, be like, I'm going to put 50,000 out there, but the minimum price I want for these 50 is $2.
Yeah, you cannot set limit orders like that. So this was something that, at the time.
But you couldn't, but don't you have to guarantee that it's $1? Doesn't there have to be a limit order to be like, well, I'm not going to sell this below $1?
So at the time, Uniswap V3, which is concentrated, like, capital efficiency liquidity pools, this complicated concept. It just came out. People were still figuring out how it works. I was able to, over time, I realized that I can use the V3 pools to set a liquidity wall at 1 USDC for 1 million token. And so now you can check even, there's $1 million liquidity wall for $1 million worth of USDC for every token. So that backs each token. But even now, like it's you could even say it's excessive, right? Because if I release 50,000 tokens and I have $1 million liquidity wallet, that's like, you don't need that much capital backing whatever you release, right? So,
but isn't there a chance that, let's say 100,000 people want to sell at the same time, and there's only 50,000 in liquidity pool? What would is that possible that more people can sell than liquid?
No, not if you monitor, not if you. So again, you have to keep track of how many tokens are in the free market. If there's like 10 tokens floating around, you only need a liquidity wall of 10, right? 10 USDC coins to back all of those, right? So essentially every token was always and has always been backed, right, by the 1 USDC peg. And CoffeeZilla is simply, I think he was simply just saying like, hey, you only put in 50,000 at first, right? And then like as people exchange USDC coin for million token, there were more USDC coins that I figured out, hey, you know what? Rather than waiting for Coinbase to bring in more funds to deploy, since people were exchanging one for one, the USDC can actually be used to deploy more tokens. And in either case, right, they would always all be backed.
Now, but how many do you hold on to? Because I mean, and again, I'm not familiar with this, but let's just say you hold on to 900,000. So there's only 100,000 for sale. Doesn't that mean a smaller float essentially means that the price could go up higher if more people are buying a smaller amount? Like with GameStop, the reason it went up so high was because a lot of those were held and there wasn't a lot on the market. So because there weren't a lot, if people were buying, it was driving up the price higher. Couldn't that be a component?
Yeah, so I think this was probably one thing that I wish I could have done earlier, was to deploy more of the tokens faster. Given, like, again, this was something I was not super familiar with the whole liquidity thing. I learned over time, but I did not think, like I deployed with 50,000, you know, and within the next day, I think I deployed another 50,000. So, but I was thinking, how much are people going to buy, right? Like maybe 5,000 tokens. So in my mind, 50K was just like excessive, but I was just thinking, you know what, this is the limit I can bring in. And I deployed the tokens pretty much as quickly as I could, you know, to people who wanted it. Yeah.
Could you disclose how many you have now?
Yeah, you can totally check on Etherscan. Yeah. I own about 6% basically of the million tokens, which is, from a distribution standpoint, this is what you want. Like you don't want whales in the community. So this is like, I mean, at first we had some people who would just come in, they recognize, hey, this is an opportunity. They kind of knew like their game around the cryptocurrency. So they bought a whole bunch. They were whales and they were able to like the whales are very dangerous in a community. Like I see people sometimes in the past, they would be holding on to massive amounts of tokens and would just be thinking, when are they going to sell this? If you check the distribution now, it's like there's no whales. It's a very nice distribution. When you take a look at Dogecoin, do you know like 50% of all Dogecoins are held by like 10 wallets or something like that, right? So like it's like these 10 people or so can crash Dogecoin if they wanted to get out.
Now, I am curious though, because you went from 100% ownership with $1 million down to 6. Doesn't that mean that to give up your ownership, you've been selling coins along the way at whatever price someone's willing to pay? Because you provide the $1 million, but if someone says, hey, I'm willing to spend $20 for every one, that has to come from you, right?
No, so I don't. To understand liquidity, if I were to sell, I sell to myself. If I'm the primary liquidity provider, I can, right? Like you trade against the liquidity pool. If you create the liquidity pool and you buy and sell, you're trading against yourself. So I think this is one thing some people don't understand. It's like it's actually, I think it's actually difficult to try to so-called rug pull a project because if you sell, you just sell it back to yourself. So what I do is I create the liquidity pools, and the liquidity pools were a way for people to just the tokens essentially get deployed as there's buying pressure.
All right.
Right. But the price deploying the liquidity pool is generally a neutral position, and it never causes the price to go down.
But I guess my question is, let's say you deploy 50,000 at $1. The price gets bid up to $2, let's just say, and you said, now I need to provide more liquidity. So I'm going to give another 50,000 tokens, but the price is $2 now. By you giving up that 50,000 tokens, does that now mean that you, in return, get $100,000 because you gave 5% of your liquidity? Because you wouldn't sell it for less than what people are willing to pay, because then that would be unfair to the people who bought the first 50,000. So you have to match the market value. So wouldn't that mean that you went from 100% ownership and would release the liquidity at whatever price it's trading at?
I think it's important to recognize that you can lose money on liquidity.
Yes.
Okay. So like, let's say the price is 200 and you deploy a liquidity pool. That's an agreement to not only sell tokens at a price of 200, but an agreement to buy them back at 200 as well. So if you think the market has gone ahead of itself, like let's say it's just, there's a lot of hype and speculation, and you deploy liquidity, you could be buying a bunch of the tokens, and if the token, right, you'll be buying them at 200, 199, 198. Correct. The price can drop, and then you're holding a bunch of million tokens, and then you redeploy more liquidity at a lower price. Mm-hmm. You can lose money, right? Because no matter what, right, like let's say the price goes down to $100, you deploy more liquidity, you would have, and let's say at that price you sell out all the tokens, then you would have lost half of your money by then if you were to do that.
So what you're trying to say is that just like you would provide liquidity from $1 to $20, you could also provide it from $20 down to $1. So just like you're making money, the price goes up, you're also losing that equivalent money as it goes down.
You can lose massive amounts. I mean, I remember there was a moment where I put in like $100,000, maybe more, of liquidity in order to try to just support the current price range, and it got wiped out in 4 hours, right? Because some whale decided to just sell out. Mm-hmm. So they just cashed out that liquidity position. So, you know, typically liquidity is supposed to be a neutral position. It's actually anybody can do it. You know, it's not like I'm special in any way. Yeah. Like anybody can just come in and add liquidity if they want. Yeah.
So when you're going back and forth with CoffeeZilla, how much of that was strategic? Of just, you're going to drive more attention to Million Token? Because I watched your videos, and I think a lot of people can't differentiate you being real versus the sarcasm. And I kind of, knowing you, would watch these videos of yours and be like, well, you know, you're being really sarcastic here, but it's also trying to prove a point, and it's driving still more traffic.
Nothing I say is ever a joke, you guys. You need to understand that. But, you know, I've dealt with CoffeeZilla enough before. I mean, come on, I'm ex-convict. But I've dealt with him enough before to know that many people, especially in his audience, are simply out for a mob hunt, right? Like, it's kind of like the Twitter mob coming after you, and people have already made up their minds. They believe what they want to believe, and there's no reasoning with people, you know? So it's like, yes, I can sit down and give you this long explanation like I've done already, but it goes with my prior note, my philosophy, that people believe what they want to believe. You know, they are where they want to be, and then they come up with all sorts of self-rationalizations and explanations for why this is the way it is. It's kind of like how I told you, you can't negotiate love. If I can give somebody the best explanation in the world, they don't want to, if they don't want to understand, they will themselves not to. So when I'm debating with CoffeeZilla, it's just like, just feed into it, right? Like just fan the flames, and get some views out of it. And I can give some explanation, which I've done, but at the same time, humans are irrational, like I said. So I would say, like, do you believe it's necessary to explain anything? Right? Like, if somebody asks you for an explanation, should you explain why you're a rational being? Hey, I'm rational. This is why I'm rational. Or should you just say, I'm a psychopath, you guys. Humans are irrational. What do I have to explain? It's like asking a rabid dog, please explain yourself. It's like, don't expect people to be rational.
I don't know. Sometimes I think a good explanation goes a long way. In a very calm, collected way, because I feel like you're able to articulate something that might be misconstrued. So if there is something thrown at you, combating that with points against it and why the other person might be incorrect, or explaining your point of view, I do think goes a long way, because I think people are able to see that and contextualize it. And
I don't think you can argue with a mob, right? Like, have you tried arguing with the Twitter mob?
I think there's a difference between arguing with each person individually and addressing the situation as a whole. So I think, like, there are certain comments that I've received that are like, no, I'm not going to respond to this comment. But
here's the other thing. Like, CoffeeZilla never, I don't think he wants an explanation, right? Like, this is the YouTube game. Everybody's in it for money. He builds his business off of criticizing other people and just calling is life a scam? Yeah, it probably is. Right? Is marriage a scam? Sure, sure it is. It's like, is life unfair? He should make a video about that. Hey, life's unfair, you guys. Breaking news. It's like, if he already has in my view, if he already has a perspective and he doesn't want to sit down and have a long conversation, explanation about this, and you know what he's going to do. He's going to just clip out whatever he can and just attack the other person and just make a video and leave out anything necessary, right? So, like, this is my problem with criticism culture, by the way. Criticism is easy. Everybody can criticize. I've had so many people come criticize me in the past. I made a Tech Interview Pro course, right, to sell interview tips on how to get into Fang. And people come and say, hey, this is a scam, you guys. This is a scam. These people never even took the course. Meanwhile, other people came in and said, let me just see. Let me try to focus on myself instead of just blaming other people.
Well, I heard a story about that. And let me ask you if it's true. I heard that there was a competitor. I don't know where I heard this. I think it was a video that I saw on YouTube. Someone said that there was a competitor to your program, and their website expired. And you bought their website, and then when people went to their website, it rerouted it to yours.
That was a pretty old piece of drama.
Yeah.
And I mean, we can go into that if you want.
No, there's
plenty of content, but like, I would say he should focus on himself and focus on collaboration instead of, it's like, if you're trying to tear, like, let's say you spend your life tearing somebody else down. Let's say you spend your life trying to right all the injustices that were done to you. So you grew up to some age, and you make a list of everybody who wronged you in your life, right? Hey, that person stole my website. That person stole my piece of candy. I'm going to go back and just like get these people back. I'm going to find justice. You got to focus on yourself, I would say. Ultimately, if you want to find success, there's no room for anger. There's no room for hate. Like, think about it. Hate is a luxury, right? Hate is a luxury that if you truly want success, you cannot afford to, right? Isn't hate something that just, and anger something that just makes you feel good, but you lose in the process of pursuing that? Mm-hmm. So it's a luxury that I would say you cannot afford if if you're truly going after the highest success, you collaborate with everybody. Somebody wrongs you, you say, cool, you wronged me. How can we still make the best of this situation? Right? Instead of saying, oh, you wronged me, let me burn my bridge with you. Let me just burn all of my bridges. Let me like get you back and focus my life on tearing other people down. Then you tear yourself down too.
Got it. Yeah, I think, what was it? I forget. Someone a while ago, I've had 2 instances, but both of them have turned out really good. One person, I think it was TikTok. They got my don't like my screen name, just like Graham Stephan, and they were really kind about it. I forget what it was, Jack. Maybe it was TikTok. It wasn't Instagram. I forget what it was. But anyway, I reached out to the person. They're like, "Oh yeah, no, I got it. Maybe it's Clubhouse. I got it because I didn't want anyone else to take it. Here you go." I'm so nice about it. And then one time, my domain, Graham Stephan, expired, and I don't know who did this, but they bought grahamstephan.com and rerouted it to go to meetkevin.com. Or like metkevin.com. It was like one of those funny things. And I asked Kevin, I'm like, dude, is this you? He's like, no, it's not me. And then eventually they gave it back. But I just thought that was really funny. But both of them have really good endings. This was a year ago, probably over a year ago, when Clubhouse first went out. Jack just got a whole bunch of usernames. I got a
bunch of usernames.
A whole bunch, like good usernames. Yeah. We don't have to mention them specifically, but these are names that like should be reserved for like the elite of the elite. And Jack just,
I went in and yanked them all. I got my friends' phone numbers and I was like, can I use your phone number? Can I use your phone number? Because you need to attach it to a phone number. And then I just got them all to get
I mean, it's because you're poor, Jack. This is something
but I asked Jack.
Do, right? It's like,
and guess how much money I got out of it?
$2,
$0.
Yeah,
tens of thousands of dollars.
But I have good usernames.
So. If you had cash out, you'd make like a few pennies.
Now, here's the thing, though.
Like,
you never know.
I asked Jack, this is like, what's your plan with this? And he's like, well, if they ask for it, I'm going to give it to him. I'm like, you wouldn't sell it? He's like, no, I wouldn't sell it, but like I would just give it to him. The downside, though, is that in the beginning, you didn't know if it was going to go the route of Instagram, or eventually, like, you have a one-word username on Instagram that's like 20 grand.
Is Jack behind all those YouTube bots? You're the one posting on all those channels?
That's how he bought his house. Yeah. But unfortunately, Clubhouse is just like, it went really downhill, and now all your usernames are kind of worthless.
Worthless completely. But it was still, I mean, it took me, an hour and a half, and I gave myself an opportunity to have, I don't know, a lot of upside.
He did, but he has
got to go 10x, Jack.
Yeah, but he has good usernames of also like corporations and like.
This isn't passive income, man.
No, it was very active, and it also wasn't income. So
yeah, never sell your time. Right?
Never sell it. Well, I also enjoyed it. It was kind of fun because you try a username and it doesn't work, and you're like, oh, what about this celebrity? And then you try it, and then maybe it works, and they give you a little, a rush. It was just a late night.
Yeah, but Jack got a few people with well over like 40, 50 million followers.
Yeah.
And
yeah. It was a good time.
Gosh.
Worth nothing now, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of your channel now, I've noticed that you've made some, we don't have to mention specifically, some controversial opinions and topics lately between some channels. How much of that is simply for the shock value of, let me say, the most out there thing?
I'm against the current thing.
What's up?
I'm against the current thing, whatever the current thing is.
Pretty much. Like whatever it is, you'll take the opposite stance of it. But I notice when you do that, the views are like 5x what they would be any other way. A lot of pushback, but at the end, do you just see this as like if I say this or I take this stance, there's more upside than downside, or people move on?
I think it comes down to like I stopped reading mainstream news, right? Because there's no alpha there. Like everything there is priced into the market. So if all you do is follow mainstream news, you will always be one step behind. Yahoo Finance is gonna come and say, this is what you should believe in, whatever, right? Like some markets doing well. But that's all priced into the market. Everybody's seen that. So you have to think by yourself and oftentimes go against the herd, right? Because that's where you find new thoughts, new opinions and ideas, and where you're really at the forefront, right? And so you have to keep your mind open and just question and ask yourself just ask yourself, like, is this really the truth? Don't just believe whatever you read. that's where the, so to speak, alpha is, right? That's where the reward is. So personally, right, it's like I avoid mainstream news. I like to read controversial news. I mean, even Elon Musk, right, recently took a hold of Twitter to say that there's no free speech anymore.
Yeah.
If you say anything that is against current mind speak, the current thing, or believe whatever, like you could be canceled for sure. But then you don't find returns on investment. You don't find opportunities because you're just following the herd all the time. So what I like to do sometimes on my channel, at least, is I present different opinions, right? Different points of view, ask people to question themselves. And this is something that, like, let's think about your upbringing. You were raised with certain values. Your teachers, your mentors, your parents all came to you and said, these are things that are important. These are your values. So then you go into the world and you're afraid to reflect your values into the world. You're quiet. So the flame that they lit in you to stand up and speak your voice was extinguished because you were too afraid to speak, right? You let the voices of others drown you out. Maybe, and this is maybe a freedom that's only provided to people who are not able to be canceled. Like maybe if you really want to reflect the values and respect everybody you met in your life who gave you the values and beliefs that you currently hold, and these people spent so much time and effort trying to get you to believe in these things and hold these values that are so strong, maybe you should reflect those values into the world too, simply to show respect to every mentor and teacher that you encountered in your life. But when you let other people just drown you out because you're afraid, you're showing disrespect to anybody who put any time in you. They should have just said, why am I even wasting time with you? Right? Why am I even trying to teach you anything when you're going to just cower it out and just be quiet because you didn't want to speak up? And then if you were to speak up enough about whatever it is, right? Like maybe even just saying, hey guys, maybe we should think about this. I'm not sure if I believe this. Like maybe if enough people say that, together that forms an opinion, that forms a voice. Is it okay to be, some people don't want to be the first candle that lights up, right? Because they're afraid to go against that crowd. Maybe you're a follower. That's why I'm the tech lead, right? Like maybe you need to lead. And like initiative is extremely difficult to find in people. Impact, you probably know, most people are extremely low impact, low initiative people, zero initiative, right? Like this is what separates tech lead, by the way, from software engineer. So, right, software engineers, by the way, they only do what they're told to do. They enter a company, they're great coders. You give them a task, they do it. Solid engineer, great, you did the task. The senior engineer, what separates them is initiative and impact. So you need to take initiative. You need to come and say, I've seen enough of the world. I have experience. I know what's right, or I know what's worth pursuing, what's exploring. Here's an idea. And not only is it something worth thinking about, but we need to make it a reality and actually execute on this idea and take that initiative, right? So like very few people do that. Most people say, hey, wouldn't it be cool if somebody made this? Hey, I had an idea for an app. That's kind of interesting. Hey, this is, somebody should do that sometime. Yeah, I'm going to do it one day. One day I'm going to go to South America and explore. One day I'm going to go scuba diving in Fiji with all of my friends. Are you ever going to do that? Right? Like probably, maybe it's never going to happen because maybe do you have sufficient initiative and impact to execute? Right? And that execution can be extremely ugly. It's where the rubber hits the road between dream and reality, right? Between sky and ground. That's a very dirty, messy part. Sparks are flying. But you have to get in there sometimes. And yeah, people can disagree with you. There can be a lot of mess going on. It's not a place that a lot of people want to be. It can push you out of your comfort zone. It can make you look like a fool. Your pride, your ego, your status can get in your way. You may still need to just say, let me go make a fool of myself. Let me humiliate myself. And by doing that, you take initiative.
Why did you leave California? Some of that I know was, maybe some of the taxes.
Yeah, how did I end up in this hole?
I know.
Random desert?
You made a video complaining about dry skin and just the
just washing my face with hard mineral water that's just scratching my skin.
It's going to make you age more.
Yeah, just aging and dry air.
So why?
I'm crying now. So actually, you just can't see my tears.
Yeah, but if money was a consideration, wouldn't you just say, "Yeah, I'm going to live in California, where my skin's going to be better"?
Are you here for the money, for your tax savings?
That's definitely a component. But I would say for me, taxes is one of them. But the lifestyle is a huge component of just. I feel like I'm getting way more than I would be able to do in California.
Las Vegas is very functional. Right, it's very nice actually so far from what I've seen. Like I spent time in San Francisco and it's total trash. It's a total trash pile of a city. Like everything boarded up. But I mean, this is where like if you're rich enough, you end up in a desert in the middle of nowhere, right? Like if you're kind of middle class, you might be in a nice city like New York, making your way, Los Angeles or something like San Francisco. Really for me, after I figured out, like, after I totally trashed this city and told everyone how trashy it is, hey, I'm here, you guys. I'm in Las Vegas. Now you know why I don't have friends. But for me, it was a decision. Like, I realized that if I'm going to be, my plan is actually to do more traveling, right? To integrate more traveling into my life. So if that's my plan, it simply doesn't make sense to get like a nice seaside apartment in Los Angeles or something where I'm paying whatever rent it is and I'm not using the space, right? So it's the cost of living, I would say, for Las Vegas that gets you something pretty good for a price that's not going to just, like it's not going to be something that you're not even paying for, or it's not going to be excessive to that point. It's pretty reasonable here. So yeah, I wouldn't say the tax savings are meaningful at all, really. It's like 10% tax savings is not meaningful. You should go to Puerto Rico, right? Like if you're really after tax savings, go to Puerto Rico. So to me, it's kind of like, it's a pretty decent cost of living base from which is close enough to California for me. If my family were on the East Coast, I would definitely go to Puerto Rico, right? But since I still have family and I have a dog I need to take care of over in California, occasionally I like to go back and visit. So Las Vegas makes sense, and it's a pretty interesting change of pace. And I think, I mean, this is an experiment kind of for me, but I've been interested in travel and like I'm trying to maximize experiences. I have very little interest in material things. Like I don't own a nice watch. I don't own a nice car. I don't own a house. I don't want to own a house. Like your aquarium exploded, right? It's like, I don't want to maintain that. I have no interest in fixing anything. My hands are for typing. That's it, right? As a like I live in the metaverse. But so I'm trying to focus more on traveling and experiences, and Las Vegas is a great base for that. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my current plan. But I'm not here to save money. I think saving money is it's a waste of youth and time. Like, I'm not sure I believe in saving money even anymore. Like, I believe if there's a young person who has youth, time, and health, and they're only lacking in wealth, but they have every other capacity to maximize happiness and enjoyment, maybe they should deploy that capital at that point in their life to maximize that, than waiting until they're 60 or 70 and they're not able to deploy capital to experience life at all.
It's easy to say that when you have the money, because then it's easy to go back and be like, well, I got this. I could focus on the other aspects. But when you have no wealth and it's a grind of like, well, I have to suck it up at this job for the next 30 years just to break even every day.
It's not like, it's like, enjoy the journey, right? I don't think like you can, like, you've got to maximize enjoyment every step of your life. If you think, what I like to think of is, right, like if the most successful of people are doctors and lawyers, they achieve wealth, early retirement at the best, age 40, maybe age 50. By then their life is over, right? It's like, and that's in the best case scenario. So you have to make sure you're enjoying life every step of the way and deploy. I think you need to find ways to deploy capital to do that, because as you get older and you're going to realize that you cannot derive enjoyment anymore from money. You may find that or you may find it very difficult to deploy it in a way to make yourself happy.
I see it as a means to an end. If you have a job that you dislike and you're 25 years old, you have health.
But he's talking about you.
Well, let me also say,
talking about me specifically?
Has anybody saved their way to riches?
I think so.
I think like we all made our wealth through focusing more on making money than on saving on like Starbucks coffee.
I mean, I did that. I mean, it's hard for me because I saved everything. I lived so cheap. I mean, even a $5 Subway, like I thought about that purchase and I'm like, do I really need the $5 Subway, or can I do eat at 2 eggs and ham and cheese for 97 cents? I did that.
I did that too, but I think it's a scam story that the media sells you as an easy way for anybody. Hey, we can all become rich. Here's how. It's so easy. All you got to do is skip lunch. When the answer is far more difficult than people want to hear. Go start a business. Go apply yourself and make money. It's easier to make money than to save it. Who wants to hear that?
I don't know. Part of me thought it was easier to save than make. Because if I save $1, I'm saving $1 after tax. If I'm going and making an extra $1, I'm taxed on that. It's worth less than just if I saved it. So for the first, from really 18 to 30, I was just like hyper fixated on just saving, and those habits. There'd be no way I'd be here today if it weren't for those habits that were just so ingrained from the very beginning of just like save.
It was the habits, but it wasn't necessarily the saving itself, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if I were making $15,000 a year, but I was saving $14,000 of it, and then obviously I wouldn't be here today either. But I think it was a combination of saving everything, but then also actively working on
what I think,
improving myself and making more money at the same time.
If you're a young person, use the money that you have, don't save it, and deploy it into like learning something, right? Acquire some skill. Use the money to
but I think
build
it's
a business.
Free. I think so much learning could be done for free. Like besides books, I learned everything from YouTube and Reddit. I mean, that's like, and then if there was something I didn't know, I would learn it in real estate. I would talk to other agents. It was my time. I spent my time.
Let's just put it this way. There's so much advice online and from every like Dave Ramsey person who's saying, you need to cut your budget. You need to like pack your lunches. Everybody feels that's actionable. They feel good about themselves. Nobody's saying, hey, why don't you like start a YouTube channel? Why don't you like build a course? Why don't you try to teach something? Like, why don't you like build a product, start a business? Nobody tells you that. So everybody's just out there saying, okay, 401k. Let's max out that 401k, you guys.
Well, because those are, I want to say those are pretty surefire, guaranteed ways that people could have instant results. I think starting a business, a lot of them fail. Doing a lot of these things, a lot of them fail. So by focusing on the core of the foundation of these, I know, contributing to a Roth IRA, saving money, that's money in my pocket. That's guaranteed. Anything I do beyond that, that's where I take the risk. But let me at least have my fortress over here, and that gives me the safety and the reassurance that I could focus on whatever else I want. And once those pay off, or if they pay off, then I could take that route.
It also is like he said, it's the safety and reassurance that you know for a fact if you do end up saving money, that is completely within your control. Is that you can save money and you can invest it. And it's a safe way to collect a lot of money rather than going and starting a business, starting a YouTube channel where you have so much chaos and variables. Yeah.
You're poor.
Hey,
I bought a house. What do you... That house is up 15% this year.
You're poor. Like, look.
Yeah.
Let the millionaire speak.
Okay.
I'm not talking about Graham. I'm talking about me.
The true millionaire.
I have a question for you, Graham.
Yeah.
How much money were you making per year when you hit $1 million net worth?
Somewhere between 150 and 220 a year, probably. Maybe no more than 250, definitely.
In my opinion,
120 to 250.
I think that you didn't make yourself wealthy by all the penny pinching. I agree with Techlead.
No, I would disagree. I think it would. First of all, there would have been no way.
First of all,
there would have been no way that I could have bought all of those properties that contributed to that net worth and that foundation of income had I not saved every single penny. Even at the time I bought those first few properties, I was still like $2,000 short, and I didn't have money to pay a contractor, and I had a tenant moving in shortly, and I went to my grandma.
Let me ask you.
And she gave me $2,000. I'd be like, thanks, Grandma. I'll pay you back in 3 weeks. I'm literally getting this money from.
She could have gave you $3,000. Right?
Could you have driven Ubers? Yeah. Like driven Uber on the weekends?
No, I was working on the weekends. I was a real estate agent, and those weekends I would go up to San Bernardino, check out properties. Here's how I know this. At 8, I think I was 18 or 19. My girlfriend at the time, throughout high school, broke up with me, and I was so sad and depressed
because you were too cheap. See, that's
why. She said, "Graham, you need to buy that Starbucks." No.
That's what it costs you for being.
No, it didn't.
For all the saving.
No,
I
gosh,
mean, you don't know what you lost.
No, I know it had nothing to do with money.
Okay, well, look,
that was absolutely
If you had focused more on making money, you would be a billionaire now, right? In comparison, you're only a millionaire now. So that's what it costs you.
I feel like, but you could say the same. I could be a billionaire. You'd be like, well, you could always be worth $10 billion. You know, or you could, if you focused more on this, you'd be more. But my point being is that when I went through that, my way out of it, my escape was just like, I'm going to put everything I can into bettering myself, improving myself, going to the gym. And any moment of free time, I poured myself into work because that was my like outlet. And that was my creative, just, I felt alive doing that. I had so much fun doing that. And that was like, made the days fly by because I enjoyed it so much. But yeah, I mean, but I saved every little bit of that because I knew that my income was so sporadic as an agent that's what gave me comfort, was being like, okay, if I make a commission, I could save it. I also, in a competitive sense, felt like I could net more than the agents who's been doing this for 20 years because I've seen how they live. I mean, they'll spend everything they make. They make $300,000. They're spending $300,000. They got nothing left over. But if I could make $50,000 and save 25 of it, then technically I'm saving more than they are. And that's how
Yeah, I mean, if your spend rate is extremely high, then yes, you maybe my spend rate just tends to be low either way. But in either case, it's just a recognition for me that there's a lot of mainstream media saying, hey, just put it into 401k, save your money. That's how you're going to become rich. And I'm just questioning that narrative, right? It's like, I'm a futurist. I tend to think, what are people 100 years in the future? People are going to look back and laugh at us and say we were totally idiots. So like right now, everyone thinks 401k and saving money is the way to go. In the future, everyone's going to say something else, right? They may say, yeah, this is totally flawed. Question that.
Well, I think the end goal is that there's probably both. I'm not a huge fan of the 401k. I much prefer the Roth. But if someone makes more than $6,000 a year, I would do anything possible to tell that person, save everything you can until you max out that Roth IRA. Whether you're 18, 19, 25, doesn't matter.
I would tell the person, like, buy a DSLR camera and start a YouTube channel, right? Like start a business. Maybe use that and learn programming and, right? Get a job as a coder instead of just saving that and and working a dead-end job. And you're going to save like $50.
But see, the issue that I see is that people view either, let's say in your YouTube channel example, as a means to an end. Be like, I'm going to start the channel, make a ton of money. Everyone who I've seen who's done YouTube has done YouTube for fun first. And if it takes off, great. And that will eventually evolve over time. But everyone successful that I've seen never started being like, I'm not going to max out my Roth IRA. I'm going to start the YouTube channel and make a lot of money. I've never seen that happen.
I would agree with that money is an extremely poor motivator. And people should not be chasing money in the first place. Right? Like, it's not going to... You get money, you're just going to throw it into Bitcoin or crypto or something like that. It's like, figure out the life you want. Many people, even if they achieve massive wealth like you, say, the life I actually wanted was to stay at home reading news and making videos all day. That's actually what I wanted. Well, you didn't need wealth to get that.
I think the money gives options. And it gives the person the option to say, hey, you know what? I don't feel like doing this today. Or maybe 10 years from now, if I want to do this, I can. That's where I think the value is. Because otherwise, if I knew that I'd be perfectly happy just making a video every day, and so be it. But I don't know if that's going to last forever. I've always just gone with, hey, this feels right. This is what I want to do. This is where my intuition leads me. I'm going to pursue that. It's always been like that. So, and having money gives me the means to pursue whatever it might be.
I would say money is definitely useful. Most people who have it don't know how to deploy it and never use it properly. But if you know how to figure out how to actually deploy that and maximize that in conjunction with your other assets, right, like health, wealth, youth, and time, you may be able to figure out how to actually use it properly. But generally, it's very difficult, I would say, to deploy money in a way that's going to bring you happiness, right? Some people just buy a car that makes them happy for a month, and they lost $500,000. And it gave them 1 month of joy, right? I mean, right?
Not if they buy a Ford GT that goes up in value. Then they can make money and enjoy the car.
I mean, I can tell your status just from that. It's like pretty cheap. Like, it's not very rich. I mean, you think that's expensive?
What's expensive to you? What would impress you? Be like, wow, Graham has a Lexus LFA, McLaren F1.
It would be like owning a catamaran out in the British Virgin Islands. Right? It's like, well, you're a lander. You just go around on land. Well, all right. If that's what you enjoy, you know, some people got catamarans out there.
Yeah, I still need to transcend. I'm going to work on that.
Yeah, you'll get there. Keep working on it. If you're here, I'm like right around there.
I know. That's why I always have to look.
Jack, you're like under the table by now.
Jack has to transcend to my level.
Where's Bailey and where's Alex?
They're not even. I mean, they're like,
not worthy.
They're 6 feet under. But like this table is even.
They're not even worthy of his mental
The table's
energy.
worth more than me.
Why isn't this table gold plated? Right? This is trash. This whole studio's trash.
Yeah.
How much was that? How much was that jacket you're wearing?
This is top-notch stuff.
It's made out of ex-husband material.
This is a gift. Yeah, this is a gift from my ex-wife. You know how much she cost me? Half my assets. There you go. Yeah, that's how expensive it is.
That's how much it was?
I mean, this, you know, this is like, I wear outing gear, right? It's like, it's statusless, classless, I would say. So if you're wearing like Prada or Gucci, I know your social level right away. It's like, it's not that out there. So
what do you think you can work on?
I mean, what I'm working on now is really this new project for myself, which is I'm curious about can money buy happiness? Everybody says no. Right? Everybody says, oh, money can't make you happy. I'm trying to understand that and to challenge that belief. I'm trying to find more creative ways to deploy capital. Right? Like I told you, it's autopilot. And extremely lazy to just go through life selling on the 9-to-5 course and to just continue working. Like Elon Musk is living. It's a very boring. Like it's nice that he's doing that, but it's also a thoughtless path that requires zero creativity. or the people who are, I'm inspired by Tom from MySpace. He quit social media entirely. Like 3-4 years ago, he disappeared, went off to like explore nature. You know, I think some of these other people who you never hear about are living probably the best lives out there. Right? So like I'm challenging some of those beliefs for myself. And that's kind of the current thing that I'm trying to explore. So for me, like saving money, investing money, it's a boring pursuit to me, and I'm personally more interested in just figuring out how to deploy capital in a meaningful way.
Thank you so much for coming on. It was really nice meeting you. Appreciate it a lot. Mentorship group link down below where you can also get your free stock.
It's worth all the way up to $1,000 when you sign up for public with the code GRAHAM. GRAHAM.
Thank you for having me. You guys enjoyed being here.
It was nice meeting you.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for coming here. And until next time. Bailey, what is it? Get it.